Look, you finally scraped together that $100,000 in your investment accounts. Maybe it's sitting in a mix of your 401k, a Roth IRA, and some S&P 500 index funds, and you're feeling pretty good about it, right? But here's the gut punch that's going to hit like a surprise student loan bill. The same penny-pinching habits that got you here, like obsessing over credit card rewards or skipping that extra coffee to boost your credit score, are now the very things that'll trap you in the middle class forever, chasing the American dream without ever catching it. I mean, think about it. You're part of that elite 22% of Americans with six figures in liquid assets. But if you don't shift gears, you'll be watching inflation erode your gains while the Federal Reserve hikes rates again, leaving you stuck refinancing your mortgage instead of building real wealth. Stick around, because we're diving deep into why this milestone is a trap for most folks and how to break free before it's too late. My name is Troy, and I spend way too much time thinking about scaling up from that first $100,000 to true financial freedom. If you're someone who finally hit six figures, but feels like you're still grinding just to keep up with student loan debt and the rising cost of living, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. All right, let's get real here. You've busted your butt to reach this point. Maybe you maxed out your employer match in your 401k, paid down some high-interest credit card debt to protect your credit score, and even started dipping into a Roth IRA for those tax-free gains. That's awesome, and you should pat yourself on the back, because statistically, you're ahead of about 78% of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck, buried under an average of $62,000 in household debt, according to the Federal Reserve's latest data. But here's the thing that frustrates me to no end. Most people treat $100,000 like it's the end game, like they've unlocked the American dream and can now just coast on compound interest while the S&P 500 does its thing at an average 10% annual return. No, that's a myth peddled by basic financial advice that keeps you mediocre. The reality? If you keep playing small ball with your money, focusing on saving $10 on groceries instead of scaling your income, you'll hit $1 million maybe in your 60s if you're lucky, while inflation from the Fed's policies chips away at your purchasing power. Now, you might be thinking, Troy, what do you mean the strategies that got me here won't get me there? Let me break it down with some hard math and a bit of psychology, because money isn't just numbers, it's about how your brain tricks you into complacency. Back when you were building from 0 to 100K, you were in survival mode, clipping digital coupons on apps, hunting for the best gas prices to save $1 per gallon, maybe even side hustling on weekends to chip away at that student loan debt that's averaging $37,000 per American graduate. Those optimizations worked because every dollar counted when your net worth was tiny. But at 100K, continuing that is like trying to fill a swimming pool with a teaspoon. It's exhausting and ineffective. Instead, you need to flip to maximization mode, building systems that leverage your position for exponential growth. Think of it like upgrading from a bicycle to a sports car. The bike got you to the neighborhood, but to cross the country, you need horsepower. Here's what most people don't realize. This shift is psychological as much as it is financial. The American dream sells us this idea that hard work and saving alone will get you the white picket fence, but the data shows otherwise. According to Vanguard's research, the median 401k balance for folks in their 50s is only about $150,000, barely enough for a comfortable retirement after accounting for healthcare costs that can top $300,000 per couple. Why? Because they never challenged the myth that time in the market is enough without aggressive income growth. Look, if you're earning $80,000 a year and saving 15% religiously at 8% returns, close to the S&P 500's long-term average, it'll take you about 25 years to hit $1 million from 100K. But bump your income by 20% through a raise or side gig, that timeline shrinks to under 20 years. The frustration? People ignore this because they're comfy. Psychologists call it the status quo bias, where your brain prefers the familiar rut over risky growth. This is where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about restructuring your financial ladder with a U.S. twist, because our system, with its 401ks, Roth IRAs, and Federal Reserve influences, demands a specific order to maximize tax advantages and beat inflation. Step 1, and I can't stress this enough, is nailing your employer 401k match. If your company offers 50% on the first 6% you contribute, that's free money, literally a 50% instant return. Yet, get this, according to a 2023 study by the Employee Benefit Research Institute, about 20% of eligible workers leave this on the table, costing them thousands annually. If you're not maxing it, you're basically handing back part of your salary to your boss. Do the math. On a $100,000 income, that's up to $3,000 free bucks a year. Invest that at 8% over 20 years, it compounds to over $140,000. Frustrating, right? But people skip it because they're too busy worrying about their credit dipping from a small debt payoff.
Step 2, crush high-interest debt, especially anything over 7 to 8% like credit cards or those lingering student loans. The average credit card APR is hovering around 24% thanks to the Fed's rate hikes. That's brutal. If you've got $10,000 at 20% interest, you're paying $2,000 a year just to tread water, while your investments might earn 8%. Net loss, 12% on that cash. Use the debt avalanche method. Pay minimums on low-interest stuff like a 4% car loan, but throw everything at the high-rate killers. Psychologically, this frees you up. Once that debt's gone, your credit score jumps. Aim for 700 plus to unlock better mortgage rates, and you redirect those payments to wealth building. Imagine reallocating $500 monthly from debt to a Roth IRA. Over 10 years at 8%, that's $90,000 extra. Speaking of Roth IRAs, Step 3 is funding one if your income's under $161,000 for singles in 2026. It phases out after that. This is gold for the American dream chaser because contributions are after tax, but growth and withdrawals are tax-free forever. No required minimum distributions like a traditional 401k. With student loan forgiveness programs potentially ending, locking in tax-free growth hedges against future policy changes from the Fed or Congress. Max it at $7,000 annually, or $8,000 if 50 plus, and if you start at 35 with $100K already invested, adding this could push you to $1 million by 55, assuming modest 7% returns post-inflation. Now, step 4. Go beyond the match and max your 401k entirely, $23,500 for under 50s in 2026. This might sting if you're dealing with high housing costs in places like California, but remember, we're maximizing, not optimizing. Pre-tax contributions lower your taxable income, potentially dropping you a bracket and saving thousands in taxes. Plus, with the S&P 500's historical resilience through Fed recessions, this is your engine for growth. Analogy time. Think of your 401k like a snowball rolling downhill. It starts small, but with consistent pushes, it becomes an avalanche. Step 5, often slept on, is the Health Savings Account, HSA, if you've got a high deductible health plan. This is triple tax advantaged. Deduct contributions, tax-free growth, tax-free withdrawals for medical stuff. Max at $4,150 for individuals, and it's better than Roths for healthcare, which averages $315,000 in retirement per Fidelity's estimates. With rising premiums, this is your shield against medical debt derailing your wealth.
Step 6. Overflow into a taxable brokerage. No limits here. Dump extra cash into low-cost S&P 500 ETFs. This is where you accelerate. If you've got $5,000 monthly surplus after maxing retirement accounts, invest it. Over 15 years at 8%, that's another $1.4 million. But here's a pro tip that ties into psychology. Implement the January bump. Increase your savings rate by 1 to 2% every new year. Starting at 15% on 90K income, ramp to 25% over time. Math? At 3% annual raises and 8% returns, this turns 100K into 2.5 million by 65 versus 1.8 million without the bumps. It's painless because lifestyle inflation creeps in anyway, but you capture it for wealth. Automation is key now, but not just for bills, for life. Set up sub-accounts in your checking for big hits, a $10,000 emergency fund buffer, a vacation pot for that cross-country road trip, even a student loan payoff if you're still carrying that. This prevents dipping into investments during Fed-induced market dips. And clean house, roll over old 401ks to avoid fees. Vanguard charges nada for this, and organized docs to track your credit score quarterly. But here's where I get really frustrated. Folks at 100K stop pushing income. They refinance their apartment's equivalent in mortgage to save $50 a month while underpaid by $15K per year. Research on Glassdoor shows average raises are 3%, but negotiators get 10 to 20%. Network, document wins, ask, or job hop. With 6 figures liquid, you can risk it for equity in startups or side gigs. Consulting? Turn your expertise into $2K a month, invested at 8% over 20 years, $1 million extra. The American dream isn't a 9-to-5 grind, it's leveraging skills for freedom. Now, you might be thinking, but Troy, more income means more spending temptation. Yup, lifestyle inflation is real. Upgrading from a reliable used car to a $700 a month lease kills wealth. Average car debt, $23,000 per NerdWallet. Instead, buy 3-year-old models cash, save $400 a month, invest it, $200K in 20 years. Conscious spending. Splurge on what sparks joy, like family trips, chasing the dream, but cut elsewhere. Set a $100 worry-free threshold. Below, no guilt. Above, align with goals. Housing's a $50,000 question. Renting isn't throwing money away if buying ties up $50K down payment that could earn 8% in S&P. Hidden costs, taxes, maintenance, add 40%. Buy only if staying 7+ years. Taxes, max accounts first before exotic schemes. Moving states saves, but not if ignoring HSAs. You've proven you can build 100K. Now scale to 1 million for choices like early retirement or funding kids' college without loans. Action steps: audit your 401k match today. Bump savings 1%. Research your market salary. If this fired you up, subscribe to Try Hard Investor, like and comment your biggest takeaway. Let's build that wealth together.